In this video I will show you how I'm able to grow tomatoes much earlier than before in my Dutch bucket system, using two special tricks. I will tell you the difference that it made and if it's actually worth it, so let's begin. Okay, so last year I planted the tomatoes in the 21st of June, and I think that is way too late, honestly. Like, for my climate I should be able to plant them earlier. But you know, this season I was able to plant them exactly 1 month earlier, in 21st of May. And by the way, check out the video where I planted them. But this year, the first trick that I will show you that made it so I could plant them much earlier was this. This is a 500 watt submersible heater for aquariums that I bought from AliExpress. And using that, I was able to keep my reservoir at 20 degrees Celsius for the whole night, which is pretty perfect. Now, during the days it gets much hotter, honestly. I've had it at like 35 degrees sometimes, which is not optimal because you increase the risk of root rot. With that being said, I haven't had any problems with root rot, except for last year in the buckets of the cucumbers. But that was probably more because of the pump that failed. I have a video about that as well. But yeah, so this heater does great things for the tomatoes and the roots, especially during the night. But I was a little more worried about the green part, and especially the top of the green part. Now the idea was that as the water is hotter, you know, it can heat the leca and it will heat, you know, the ambient air surrounding it. And because heat goes upward, and the plan is that the hotter air will just travel through and heat up the green leaves and stems. But honestly, that didn't really work as well as I hoped that it would. Because, you know, the 20-degree water can't really heat the air so much. So what ended up happening was that the temperature during the night closer to the pots was around 12 degrees. At the lowest, you know, and I have had nights of upwards to 15 degrees. But that is actually very good still, because the outside temperatures have been around 9-10 degrees, so it's actually been like 3 to 4 degrees hotter, which is absolutely an improvement, and that makes it so you can plant them a lot earlier. Now, I'm not sure about how much it has helped, you know, the absolute top of the plant, but I haven't seen any heat related damage. Now, the only thing I've seen is that on the tops of a few of the plants, the leaves have been curling inwards, which is pretty weird. That shouldn't happen. But I think that is because I planted the plants very deep in the buckets, so they may have gotten access to too much water in the beginning, so the roots have been fully soaked. And that can cause the leaves to curl inwards. But they are starting to grow out of it. They are starting to curl less. So they look healthier now. Okay, so the next thing that I used to keep the tomatoes nice and warm was these hats made out of non-woven fiber or fiber cloth, whatever you call it. But it's not a super thin kind, you know, this is how it looks. If you can see. Like, it's pretty thick, but not super thick. But I think that this has done a great job at keeping the tomatoes insulated, especially the green part. Because then the hotter air that we talked about earlier, it gets trapped in this hat. So that it doesn't just spread out throughout the whole greenhouse, and it actually stays close to the plants, which is good. So how it works is that I just put them on in the evenings when the greenhouse is at around like 20 degrees. And then I have it on during the night until the morning, when I take them off when the sun starts hitting, so that they don't get burned alive, because it does get very hot in them. Now, it's a little annoying to put them on every time, you know, they get stuck in the leaves, but I think that is worth it, you know, when they're young plants. But now they are starting to grow out of the hats, they are too tall, so I will have to take them off and keep them off. But that is fine, because they've still done their job. And also, you can't tie the tomatoes up in the ceiling with this on, so... But at that point I will not need them anymore, so that's okay. Now, was it worth it to do all of this? I'd absolutely say so. The difference that it made is actually pretty substantial now that I think about it. And it's only 2 extra things you have to do every day. And it doesn't take a lot of time to just put them on and off. And also, it's just nice to have some time in the greenhouse. Like, that is not something to take for granted. I love being in my greenhouse. But you know, having 3 to 4 degrees difference in temperature is actually, you know, pretty substantial, as I said. I'm very proud of it. So I'd completely say that it's worth it, especially for these cold nights of the Swedish spring. Now, I have a bonus thing that has helped keep this greenhouse much hotter this spring. And that is that I had 2 giant air gaps that I didn't have filled. Like, the air just has been going through the greenhouse completely. And that just immediately makes it so much harder to keep the night temperatures stable and keep them hotter than the ambient air outside. Now, these air gaps have been where the shed that I have behind me meets the floor or the ground, and the other air gaps is behind me where the ceiling meets the windows. It's a bit of an air gap. But now we've covered them with planks so that it's much more airtight and the wind doesn't just go straight through it. Looking back, I don't understand why I did it earlier. So keep this in mind if you have a greenhouse. If you have, an air gap, then you should absolutely try to make it tight. It will make a huge difference. And also with the humidity in the greenhouse. Now humidity is not always good, but for certain plants it's very good. But the problem that I have now is that it gets too hot in the greenhouse. I have, like, the door and the window that I open is not always enough. Because when it's not windy at all, the heat just stays in the greenhouse. I might have to install a fan, or maybe one of these automatically opening mechanical hinges. The cylinders for the windows that open when the liquid inside of them gets hot enough so it expands, which is super cool. Well, that was it. So subscribe if this inspires you to grow more food and if you learned something. So I will see you soon. Goodbye.